911 emergency. What's your
911. What's your emergency? How can I help you?
Welcome back to another great episode of We Speak Dispatch. We're speaking it right to you. I hope you're listening and telling your friends all about it, going, hey, I was listening to this We Speak Dispatch, and those guys are awesome. Well, at least some of them are. Anyway, so we're here today with our special guest. She's down there. We're going to talk about her in a second here, but we've got John. How is everything going, John?
Hello. Great.
In your red room, look at that. And that's murder spelled backward, but that's fine. So, and Leslie, how goes it in your part of the woods over there?
It is pretty good. It's a little bit sunny, shocking in Southern California, but we're doing okay.
Well, here in beautiful Middle Tennessee, it's going to be raining in about 20 minutes. So
nice.
We enjoy the heavy rain. That's crazy. All right. And our special guest today, who I happen to know when she started her public safety career. So she happened to come to the academy that I was in charge of. So that's always a good sign. So Roseanne, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Roseanne. I'm from Uvalde, Texas, born and raised, and I've been a dispatch for 14 and a half years now.
Oh my God.
And I absolutely love it. Never a dull moment.
It's true.
It's me on a bad day. If I still love it, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm curious, how did you get from, because we know that Doug is from California. How'd you get from California? Well, I guess from Texas. To California to Texas again.
So my uncle was a California Highway Patrol officer, and for the Winter Haven, El Centro area.
Oh wow!
And he passed away going home. He was already off duty and heading home, and it left his wife and two little girls behind. And so it was very hard for the family.
Yeah.
And I happened to be going on vacation already, so I just could go see them, spend time with them after he had already passed some time. And one of my friends, who's a dispatcher with the California Highway Patrol, actually, she's a supervisor now. She was like, why don't you apply? And I'm like, you're crazy. And I have no law enforcement experience whatsoever. What's wrong with you? And she goes, well, they hired me. I'm Irish and blonde. I'm like, well, okay.
Oh my gosh.
So I
diversity
applied.
at its earliest.
That's our philosophy. Hire the diverse people. So
yes.
Hire leprechauns.
So when I applied and I got my letter for testing, it happened to be the day I was supposed to fly in.
Oh,
so
wow.
I had to change my flight so I could go in and do this. And
Oh my gosh.
while I was there, I got to go to the station and meet people that worked with him and whatnot. And I'm like,
Oh,
okay.
wow.
And went through the whole interview process, flew back for interviews and got hired.
Wow.
And that's how I started with California Highway Patrol and loved it ever since. And it's mainly because of California Highway Patrol. I learned so much and had amazing trainers at the academy, Doug being one of them. And
Hold on, the screen's getting bigger and bigger. It's like we got to shrink it back down.
Yeah, and I had some amazing trainers at the con station, so I loved it. I found out this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
And then you left the Highway Patrol after how long? I don't remember how long.
I left CHP about 4.5 years later because it was hard missing my family and my friends and only coming home maybe once, twice a year.
Yeah.
And I got done with the earthquakes. And
oh my God.
But you're in New Mexico.
Yes.
What do they have there? Don't they have like hurricanes or something over there?
No.
In New
we have
Mexico?
tornadoes.
I don't know.
We have tornadoes from the Gulf Coast, but
Tornadoes.
and hurricanes,
Oh,
but
that's
we're
simple.
warned. We're warned ahead of time. Earthquakes, there's no warnings.
But that's what makes it nice. It's a surprise.
Exactly. 7.3 Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
Boom, here you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but no, I loved every part of my time with CHP. I learned so much and actually brought that with me to the law enforcement agency that I work with now. And because of what I learned in CHP, I've actually been a trainer. I've trained 14 dispatchers in my career with the agency I'm with now.
Great.
Awesome.
And so
Great.
it's been really neat. It's been really neat. A little challenging because Texas does things different than California, but overall it's still the same concept. We're here to provide service to our officers.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Are you with as big of an agency now as you were with CHP? So it's a large agency. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
And are you CHP just law enforcement, or do you handle fire and medical calls as well?
So the only difference between CHP and this agency is we don't answer 911 calls, where CHP did with cell phone 911s. So in our area, for our state, the police departments and the sheriff's offices actually answer those 911 calls.
Okay.
And then get it over to us if it needs to be handled, or whatever agency, fire, EMS, whoever needs to handle it.
Yeah.
But we handle quite a bit of other things that the other agencies don't because of how big we are. So it's nonstop. It's nonstop.
I would think
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
now, is your area of responsibility, because I know like CHP, obviously it was the entire state. So because I'm always surprised because I came from an agency where it was one city. You knew the city. If somebody gave you an address, you knew immediately that's not going to be in our city. Is your area of responsibility really big? So you could be talking to somebody that's kind of in the north end, and then their very next call somebody in the south end.
Okay, so I work for the Highway Patrol in Texas. So we are divided in regions. So the region I'm in, we are responsible for 19 counties.
Oh my word.
Yeah, so that includes the troopers, helping out the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
And so my particular area is 19 counties. And it's growing, unfortunately, with all the craziness going on at the border.
Yeah.
So but we're having to work together with all the other agencies because of all of that nonstop traffic that's coming in. So Border Patrol, we're right there with Border Patrol and
really
U.S. Marshals.
Oh my gosh!
Wow, it's a pretty big thing.
Do the feds key up on your radio system at times for request for assistance?
If it comes down to emergency traffic and something they're on scene at that moment, then yes, they may. Okay. But they've got their own dispatch that we work very well with, so we communicate with them on the phone and whatnot. But we have had like the sheriff's office jump in on our radio, like, whatever their agency is, we're out here with your trooper. This is the location. This is what's going on. Yeah.
Cool.
So
I was surprised. I taught at the Texas Rangers, not the baseball team, but the other ones. And it's like, they were like full on, like, we go help these ones, we go do that, we do that. And I'm like, you do all those things? I mean, it's like, California's a little more like, we don't want the Highway Patrol involved in this. Let's get them out of here.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
Wow. No, it's a little different in Texas. Our Texas Rangers are provided assistance to any agency during any kind of investigation. Even the jails, when there's an inmate that's passed away for some reason, Rangers get part of it. They're part of that investigation.
Wow. And they're required to wear those big cowboy hats, right? Is that the thing?
Yes, they are. Big old hats and big old buckles.
That's right. That is awesome. So you mentioned that you are from Uvalde. How because I'm not familiar with, how big is that town? What's the population?
Like about 18,000 population.
Okay, so it's pretty small.
More or less.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, it's growing, but it's not humongous by any means whatsoever. But everybody knows everybody. Everybody's either related or you just know everybody, and that's just the way the community is.
Incident that occurred there at the school, that had to be very difficult for the entire town since everybody knows each other. I mean, that's just.
It was one of those that everyone kept saying, this isn't supposed to happen in Uvalde.
Yeah.
Like, why did this even happen? And so it was a shock. I know when I got the text message, I was getting ready for work when I got the text message that there's a lockdown and this is what's happening on at one of the campuses. Yeah. And I'm like, wait, what? I was like, is this a joke? Because it's not very funny.
Yeah.
And, and so I'm texting family, relatives, and especially the law enforcement that I know that would be there. And I'm like, what's going on? Are you okay? And not hearing from anybody. It was kind of like, okay, this is for real now.
When did you guys actually find out? Because you said you were getting ready to go to work. So when you got to work, what was it a madhouse? Was it?
Well, because I'm 3.5 hours away from Uvalde.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, I was 3.5 hours away, but when I first got the word, I sent a group text to my coworkers, my fellow dispatchers, and my supervisor. I'm like, hey, this is what's going on in my hometown. Please keep everybody in prayer. And so when I got to work and still waiting for answers on family and friends, it was nerve-wracking. So another friend of mine who happens to be a dispatcher with the DPS, I called her to tell her. So she made some phone calls like, hey, this is Roseanne's hometown. These are her people. This is who she can't get a hold of. Like, what can we do for her? And so our area manager kind of just stepped in and started making phone calls like, hey, you know, one of our people, this is her hometown. We need answers. Like, can you get us anything? She hasn't heard from family members or friends. And, you know, especially the law enforcement. That one really was.
And you went to that
me.
school, right? You attended that school. Oh my God.
I did third grade and fourth grade there.
Wow.
Third and fourth grade. Now it's 4 grade levels there. But when I went, it was 2. And everybody knew everybody.
Wow.
You know, tremendously. If I'm not mistaken, with the 4 grade or the 4 grade levels, it was like 600 plus the staff.
Wow.
That's big.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that big. I thought it was a pretty small school. I didn't realize it was that large of a place. Right?
No, they actually had to add on buildings to it.
It sounds like
brand new buildings.
For the 2 other grades.
Yeah. Gosh.
It had to have been so surreal to, because you mentioned, and we've had an opportunity to talk to dispatchers who handled, you know, the Sandy Hook shooting and the Aurora Theater shooting and all of these things. And you said that, you know, it couldn't happen here.
Yeah.
And but now to be so connected to it, it was your school, your community, your family, it just had to have been, and then to be going to work, that had to have been so hard. And I applaud whoever stepped in and said, hey, we need to do some outreach here, because this
it was intense. It was intense. And it was nerve-wracking to not to be able to be right there and with family and my friends and make sure everyone's okay. Like, and to be so far away, like it was being on pins and needles, just waiting and waiting and waiting.
And you said you knew people on both sides, like the victims and the officers out there. Holy cow.
Yes.
I can't even imagine.
And that was even more impactful. And crazy enough, I'm on the critical incidents response team for our agency. So we provide resources for like those dealing with not just the law enforcement side, but citizens as well, where we provide like a service to like help them out, have debriefings, talk about situations. And no matter what I was like at my moment, I was dealing with not being able to hear from family and friends, but for some reason, I just flipped it off. And I immediately called, when I got to work and things calmed down, I called Uvalde PD dispatch to check on them. I said, hey, this is who I am. I work for, DPS. That's my hometown. I said, but I'm on this team. We've got a great team being sent down there. I said, I'm not going because it's too hard for me. It's too personal. I said, but let me know and I will get you guys help, whatever y'all need. Don't hesitate. Yeah. And they were like, oh my God, thank you. No one's checked on us. And I said, I get it. I know.
Yeah.
And so, and then after I hung up, turned back the other hat, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't heard from anybody.
Did you know the dispatchers there?
No, I don't know them, but I just felt I needed to reach out to them.
Oh yeah.
And including the dispatchers at for the Highway Patrol in Del Rio, because they got some of the calls. I reached out to them, and I know them because I've had to go work special task forces down there. So I've gotten to know those ladies. And so I did reach out to them to check on them as well. But Uvalde PD was the one more impacted, obviously, because of all the phone calls coming in. So I made it a point to check on them.
It was national news.
Oh, yeah.
You had the president there, and it's got to make everything like really like crazy. And it's like it's been a little bit of time now. Has it like calmed down at your work to where do they discuss it with you guys? Do they talk about like things could happen, or what should we do in the future?
Well, ironically enough, they started sending us to active shooter trainings, not just the officers, but they decided to include us in communications. And so we just actually got back from that.
That's good.
So it was a 2-day training, and it wasn't easy for me to be the first day because I know the events that happened in Uvalde. I know, that was shared with me. Oh, yeah. And then to be there, it was like, and hearing them practice, okay, this is what it's going to be like. It was a bit difficult. And my supervisor took me out and let me have a bit of a break. But then the second day when we actually had to do scenarios, I was like, okay, I can do this. I got to do this. There's a reason why I'm here. I'm wanting to learn. I need to know what to be prepared for so I can see what it's like on their end and then do whatever I need to do on my end.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was amazing training. It was really, really eye-opening.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other words. Yeah. And,
Wow.
you know, we as dispatchers, you know, we don't like when we don't get those answers for status checks. Hello.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
now we understand, well, this is what's going on. This
Yeah.
could be
Right.
happening. And this is why we don't get that answer, but give it a little bit of time.
Yeah.
You know,
And the
let them do
training
what
was,
they got to do.
and it sounds like the training was with law enforcement, so it was a
Yes.
combined effort. So
Wow,
you
that's
could
good.
they it was a co-learning
Mhm.
for everybody. They understood what
Yes.
dispatch goes through, and dispatch understands
Mhm.
what law enforcement goes through, together in the same room and through the same
Right.
scenarios. That's the way to do
the
it.
instructors were amazing. Two of them are troopers from my area.
Mm.
And so they made sure we were right there, the four of us in communications. They wanted to make sure we got to see.
Mm.
And so we got to play roles of not just dispatch, but
Right.
the victims. So we got to be in the actual
Oh,
classrooms
wow.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was good to see from that perspective what happens as on the inside, what they deal with. And then it was good for our perspective. Okay, as a dispatcher, we can see this is what could possibly go down. This is what they're dealing with. We just got to hang in there and, you know, do our thing on our end and provide whatever assistance they need, you know, in a timely manner, so everyone's safe.
Now,
Wow.
going through that, do you feel more prepared to handle such a situation if one came to your agency?
I think
Going through
so,
that
'cause it
training,
gives
that
us-
training.
Yeah, I think so, because it gives us a better idea. I'm all about seeing from their perspective, an officer's perspective, because that's what's
Yeah.
going to help me do my job better, to help them. And so I feel that doing the training was a good thing, and it was so informative. We all asked questions, both. It was good that we could ask the officers questions and they could ask us questions. You know, well, what about this? Well, no, we need this. Is why we're bugging you. This is why we need this. So it was good to have that, so we can be more prepared.
How long
Yeah.
after
It
that
was
shooting
good.
was that training?
We just had it this past week.
Wow. Okay.
It's
So
so
it's been-
fresh,
yeah.
man. It's like,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
would be hard to hear them saying all these things, and you're like, "Oi!"
Hmm.
It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why the first day it was difficult. I
hard.
kid you not, my pulse was at 116
Oh,
at
Oh
one
my
point.
word!
And so
Wow.
I told my supervisor, I think I need to take a bit of a break. I need to step out for a little bit.
Yeah.
And he understood. He knows, you know, what's been going on. He checks on me,
Mhm.
you know, daily. Like, how are you doing? How's your family? We're praying, you know. So he knows.
Have you been
So
over to the
he-
town since this thing?
Oh yeah, to check on family members and
Wow.
friends. So pretty much all my days off, pretty much every week I go home to Uvalde. It's a
Oh,
home.
really?
It's always
Wow.
home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Well,
it took me 2 weeks before I actually went to the school.
oh,
I just couldn't.
I can't imagine.
And so when my mom's like, well, they're gonna tear it down, you know, this was your school. And I was like, okay. So I did. I went, and I could only stay there for a few minutes. It was
I would
just,
imagine.
it's so unreal.
Sure.
That
Right.
this
Sure.
happened at, you know, a school that we went to, and everybody was safe. The doors were never
Yeah.
locked. Like,
Right.
I'm coming in and out like nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so but that's the only time I've been back to the campus. It's hard.
I
It's
can
really,
imagine,
really
yeah.
hard.
Jeez.
Is there anything that, you know, because you mentioned that you reached out to the dispatchers there, and I think very often people think, oh, you know, mutual aid, we're going to send officers, and, you know, all the field units get a ton of mutual aid, but dispatch really sometimes is forgotten, or, you know, because everybody uses a different CAD system, and, you know, it's not like even after 31 years that I could just walk into your center and sit down and start taking calls. So do you have any sense of maybe this has been, hey, we really need to, as a regional dispatch group, to look at ways that we can provide support to each other and reach out and make sure that everybody's okay? Because I'm sure the Uvalde dispatchers are still having to struggle through quite a bit themselves. And, you know,
Yes.
and for people who are listening, how can we support the dispatchers who are still answering those phones 24/7?
You know, I will say I was proud of our agency, because things got pretty bad for the dispatchers. So they were getting death threats on the 911 call lines
Oh
and
my
We didn't hear
word!
that.
on the
Yeah.
public lines.
Yeah.
And so the other team I'm also on is the communications emergency operations team, and we get deployed during natural disasters or any kind of major event. So they did send out a team, and obviously it was too close to home, so I
Right.
couldn't go, but they did send a team out, and we have command trailers that we work out of. So it's our CAT system. and we just connect to their system to get their phones. And we had to send a team out there to help them for a while because they were getting inundated. It was way too much for them, and rightfully so that they needed that time away.
Oh my gosh.
I know that they were there for maybe a good week.
Yeah.
And then after that, they've been on their own, but I think it's good that people just continue to reach out to them like, hey, we're still here. We support you. You keep doing what you're doing, because yes, it is a thankless job, but sometimes it's nice to have that little bit of encouragement, and it's okay. Keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
Because that can go a long way.
Sure.
So there's a Facebook page that I'm a part of, and all those dispatchers from across the state the country, put little care packages, and they drove down to take it to the dispatchers in Uvalde.
I did see in some Facebook groups, some people were organizing that and were asking for donations, and a lot of it was just gift cards more than other things. Because those are the stores that are down there, and people donating necessarily wouldn't know, and they were they were driving like from Ohio and Michigan to there.
And that was so much appreciated, because we are often forgotten. And that to us, it was a gesture, a kind, small gesture that went a long way. And I know that they appreciated that more than anything. And so I think that we need to remember that dispatchers, we're not just doing our job. This is a career, this is a passion we have, and we need to be, given that little pat on the back at every now and then, or that encouraging, or just, hey, thanks for what you're doing, because that means the world.
Wow.
And
well,
I know
Roseanne,
that
we definitely appreciate you coming on today. I know it was difficult to talk about this thing, since you know people on both sides of the event and you're working in that area, and that's a tough thing on its own. I just wanted to kind of get you out here just to kind of talk about what's going on, so other people around the world that listen to us can kind of see, hey, look, this is the face of somebody who's experienced this thing. This is somebody who personally has a connection to this event. So we definitely appreciate you coming on, and we send the best to you all out there. So I just hope you still remember what CHP Pride means. Anyway, so
I have never forgotten it. I've heard it all the time here. Thank you very much.
I love that stuff.
I know what I think. I know what CHP stands for, but
you better be quiet anyway. Well, thank you again.
I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys very much for having me. Thank you.
And
thanks for coming on, sharing.
And difficult time.
Yeah, very.
When I reached out to you, I was like, you were like, I don't know.
Yeah, I was very hesitant because it was so. It was just so. It was still too fresh. And
we definitely appreciate you coming by. And if you want to hear more of this, you could definitely listen to us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, every podcast you could think of out there. Each one of our broadcasts is about 15, 20 minutes long. This is about 20 minutes because we got a special guest today. So other than that, we definitely appreciate you coming by, Roseanne. Thanks, John and Leslie.
Thank you, guys.
Go out and make it a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Nice meeting you guys.
Take care.
Hey, this is Jill, and you've been listening to another great episode of We Speak Dispatch, proudly sponsored by our friends at Zybex.